Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Community of Practice call for federal staff that are working in partnership with communities. We have a very exciting call here that we've organized for you today, so we really appreciate all of you joining. Before we get started, I just have a couple of logistical items I wanted to flag. There was both a dial-in sent as well as a link to the webinar today. We would ask that you choose one audio source, either have your computer audio up and running or use the dial-in using the phone number to help eliminate the echo. At a later point in today's call, we will have an open Q&A session. If you would like to ask a question, please use the dial-in that was provided, and we'll be happy to take your questions. The call that we have today is designed to highlight some resources, some expertise, and some encouragement for federal staff in your work to lead place-based initiatives, build capacity at the local level, and support the visions of the community partners that you're working with. So we're very excited that on today's call you'll hear from both feds and from local partners in Indianapolis about innovative practices and leveraging open data to support communities that you're working with. Before we get started, I'd like to highlight a big upcoming opportunity for those of you on the call today. This spring, the Partnership for Public Service is holding the first ever training for federal staff on delivering outcomes for communities. And the training has a few main objectives. First, it should help you better navigate local communities and convene and forge partnerships at the local level. It also will give you exposure to high-value federal programs and resources for communities. We also know that many of you are on the call today specifically because you're really interested in the innovative application of open data to guide your work in communities, so that's another training objective. The deadline to apply and attend this training is actually this Friday, April 1st, so we wanted to make sure to highlight that for all of you. And as you can see, you would have the option to attend one of 3 different training sessions in May or June. This training is put on by the Partnership for Public Service. If you have any questions or concerns about the registration deadline this Friday, you can reach out directly to them. Today's call will give you all a bit of a deep dive into that third objective in the training, this application of open data. And so I'd like to turn it over to the U.S. Chief Data Scientist, DJ, to kick us off for today's conversation.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank all of you for joining this. You know, one of the things that's been really incredible to watch coming back into federal service is how transformative what all of you are doing, particularly using data to transform at the local level, and how do you use that as a game-changing mechanism to serve the communities. When we look across how the landscape is changing across the entire country and the globe, if you look, you know, in fact, if you just, some of you might already be doing this because you're looking at your mobile phone, checking Facebook or Twitter, or, you know, something like that. One of the things that you sort of realize is what enables those products, what enables that ubiquity, what makes it so easy to access and makes such a valuable service. The 2 things that are there is both the combination of technology, but also the seamless integration of data. We live in a world now where nobody really buys a paper map, especially when you land in an airport in a city that you've never been to. You open up your favorite mapping software. If you're trying to figure out how much more time you have to kill checking out Facebook or Twitter, you can pull up the traffic on those maps as well and get real-time information and feedback about what's happening. The biggest question, though, is that provides it for an individual around a very specific service. How do we bring that same power and technology to bear across everything that is happening at a community level and to all the different type of participants that are in that community? And the first thing that I think we think about when we start to approach the problem for me has been, what is the power of and the availability of technology? And what I would assert is that a technology is neither radical nor revolutionary unless it benefits every single person. And when we say every single person, what does that mean? It includes the person who doesn't have a mobile phone. It includes a person who is a veteran who's just returning from service, a person who is trying to get resources for their family because they've lost a job, somebody who's had domestic violence, a victim of domestic violence. All of those things combined. Like, we have to think about what is the ability for data and technology to do that. And that has been one of the powerful components to see actually taking place, and it's real. And so the first part of this is really the big data landscape, that's the hyped buzz term of big data. But the fascinating thing is how powerful and what it's actually doing. And for that, I would just talk to a little bit about the data that's been used at IRS. And the data was used by an economist with the team at IRS. His name is Raj Chetty. And this is a sort of famous now work that's been highlighted a bunch of places. It showed that if you look at all of the IRS data together, you can suddenly see these incredibly powerful patterns. One of which is that if you move a kid, and even it depends at the age level, if you move them from a high poverty area to a low poverty area, you can see as much as 40% lift in their median income. So that's astonishing. And that is data that's just very clear from the data sets. But if that's true, why is the voucher program so contested? Why has that been under such scrutiny? And why are the results questioned? And this is the fascinating thing, is because the question becomes, how did we test it? How did we try it? And what the big data sets are allowing us to do is to answer and understand questions in a very novel approach. And so what we are able to do is find out correlations, and from those correlations, then we can construct the programs like vouchers or other things to figure out those answers. Same is true also in the medical space. We're bringing large volumes of data together to understand issues such as schizophrenia. And you can't do that at the genomic level unless you have a large group of people. As you start to look at those type of things from the large scale and you get into the very local community, the biggest one is the data is already there many times, and we just have to open it up. And that's what you're going to hear a lot about today, is how do we unleash the power of data at the local level to make that work for everybody? Whether that's somebody that I talked about is, the victim of domestic violence, the person that's trying to figure out where to live because they just want better access to commuting options. All of those things are very easily available. And for those that are here in the DC area, we pull up an app that shows very quickly when the next bus is starting to show up, when the next metro is there. Those type of things and that integrated product suite, as we call it, that full integration happens only when you start to open up the data and allow a seamless interaction to happen. The best data products are those that facilitate an end goal through the use of data. They're not just more graphs and charts. Those are sometimes helpful for understanding policy. But the best data products that you can build are ones that are going to build new things. And so, as you hear about the opportunity to projects, the police data initiative, these are two really incredibly powerful sets of examples of how people are using data in novel ways at a fundamentally local level to change not only behavior at the local level, but change behavior at the national level. And the reason for that is each community is an experiment. Experiment of populations, experiment of policies, experiment of interaction. And what we can do by looking at which of these experiments is start to understand what are the commonalities and what are the differences. And when we can start figuring that out, we can allow each community to also improve or borrow from each other to identify basically new ways to think about the problem or build services that are going to improve everything. And so I really encourage you to think about how these initiatives and offerings could be a part of your toolbox in your community. And the thing that I just want to leave you with as we move on to these is just really two things. First is remember that anytime you're working with data, it's a team sport. It's not done by one person, not done by some superstar so-called data scientist or any type of person like that. It's about everyone working together and asking how can you use the data collectively to improve the situation. And the second is ask yourself as you're playing with the data and working with us to build it into to the experience of a person in the community, ask yourself, who are these people? Who are the personas, if you will? And what will that experience of using the data do for them? And put yourself in those shoes and that empathic ability, and you will find novel ways for how the data can not only be presented, but other places the data may show up or be put in, as you'll see with Opportunity, with some of the work that was done with Redfin and Zillow, to improve the speed and overall experience of the people in the local community. And so with that, I'll hand it over. And thank you again for all the work that you're doing in this.
Thank you, DJ. So now what we'll do is we'll transition into an overview of two particular initiatives that really are all about unleashing data at the local level. So I'll turn it over to Aiden Van Noppen to give us an overview of the Opportunity Project.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So as Elizabeth said, I'm Aiden Van Noppen. I'm an advisor to the U.S. Chief Technology Officer. And before coming over here, I was actually with HUD, where I was working on the Strong Cities, Strong Communities initiative, which is one of the early place-based initiatives of this administration. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the Opportunity Project, which is an initiative that we launched on March 7th to expand access to opportunity by putting data and digital tools in the hands of families, communities, and local leaders to help them navigate information about the resources that they need to thrive. And just like much of the place-based work, this is grounded in the president's background as a community organizer. But unlike in the 1980s when the young Barack Obama was organizing residents of Southside Chicago, we are now swimming in troves of data, as DJ said, and we're surrounded by people with the skills to turn this data into meaningful tools that help community organizers and activists point to disparities in access to neighborhood resources, that help families find affordable housing in high-opportunity neighborhoods, and local governments and those of us at the federal level to see inequities in communities and identify where to prioritize. So we launched the Opportunity Project to unleash the power of open data, both federal and local open data, explicitly to bridge the divide created by unequal access to opportunity. And through partnerships with federal governments, local governments, technologists, and community groups, we've worked to launch this project. The Opportunity Project began with the idea of curating a collection of rich data sets on community and neighborhood amenities like proximity to transit, jobs, quality schools, and daycare centers. And in part, this work actually came out of the Fair Housing Rule released by HUD this past July. The rule requires that HUD grantees use this combination of data on access to opportunity as they formulate their plans to reduce segregation and concentrated poverty. This is powerful data with many, many potential uses beyond the grantee community. So HUD, Census, Commerce, and the White House and the Presidential Innovation Fellows partnered up to do a couple of things. First, we added more data sets, and including local data from 8 communities, and we packaged it in a way that made it more software developer friendly and collaboration friendly. Second, we launched opportunity.census.gov to make it easy to engage with this data in order to build digital tools that allow users to navigate information about unequal access to opportunity. So in the 2 months leading up to the launch, 12 nonprofit and for-profit software development teams from organizations that include Zillow, Redfin, PolicyLink, Esri already did this. They used the data and worked with subject matter experts, local governments, and potential users to build a dozen digital tools that show the art of the possible of what can be done with this data. So what you see here are links to a few of the tools as they currently appear on opportunity.census.gov. And the first tool I'm going to talk about is a tool that Redfin created called Opportunity Score. It's a tool that shows users jobs they can get to from any home or apartment without a car in 30 minutes or less. The second is a company called Azavia that built a platform called Transit Analyst that advocates and local governments or community leaders can use to identify areas where key neighborhood assets are missing. Like this neighborhood in Philly that's lacking daycare centers, which also happens to be a Promise neighborhood, one of the place-based initiatives spearheaded at the Department of Education, or a neighborhood that needs more healthy corner stores, or a neighborhood where there isn't enough transportation for young people to access rec centers. So a key reason that we believe that the 12 tools will benefit real people's lives is because they were built in collaboration between federal government, users, community groups, and local governments. And this is part of what we believe makes this project meaningful. Which is why I want to talk to you about an organization called Streetwise. Streetwise is a mobile mapping and SMS platform that uses crowdsourced community-generated data to visualize what's happening on the ground. And they layer this on top of federal data and local open data sets. They're combining, much like the rest of this project is doing, they're combining the philosophy of community organizing with the philosophy and skills of the tech community. So what the Streetwise shows in this slide is a map of a neighborhood in East Oakland overlaid with local open data on food access. Each purple dot represents a grocery store. From the looks of it, this neighborhood is rich in food access. But when you ask members of the community, they will tell you that only the green dots are actual grocery stores. The vast majority of the red dots are actually liquor stores or corner stores. Streetwise calls this ground truthing, and they use this layering of data to advocate and inform policy. So what they're showing us is that there are times when open government data is sufficient, and there are times when it's not. So there's great value in local knowledge and being aware of the voices that are not in the room. We see opportunity.census.gov as a platform for that, for federal government and local governments and technologists and community groups and residents to use their collective skills and knowledge to build things that benefit people's lives. And what was built leading up to the launch of the Opportunity Project is just the beginning. Think about where we are now and what these 12 tools that were built in 6 weeks enable us to do compared to the tools the president had available to him in the 80s. Now imagine the tools that we could have at our disposal if we truly unleash the power of data to create opportunities together. 30 organizations are stepping up and committed to building new tools, putting the data to new uses, and adding new forms of data. They include coding boot camps, local governments, foundations, academia, and others. And on the federal side, we see some exciting partnerships, including USDA, enabling youth to design digital tools that support rural community development. And we're hoping to partner with many more of you on specific user groups, such as the formerly incarcerated, rural communities, LGBT youth experiencing homelessness, domestic violence prevention, and others. And just to give you a feel for the energy around this project, there are now over 400 technologists that are engaging in collaboration through the project's online platform. And we would love for you all to engage in that collaboration as well. Our hope is that we've created something that can be an accessible way for you to leverage this data to benefit the communities you serve. We also hope this demonstrates the value of partnering with the tech community to help us take advantage of the vast amounts of data available to us through data.gov and local open data portals. We've opened up over 200,000 data sets during this administration, and there's a real opportunity to leverage that. There are many examples of this, and the opportunity is just one. You certainly don't need us to do this work, but we hope the Opportunity Project can help make it easier for you. So here's what you can do if you want to connect. First, go to opportunity.census.gov. Look at the tools that have been built. Hopefully some of them will be useful to you. And look at the data sets that are available. If there's something that you or your community or communities that you work with want to build, engage with the active tech community that's already collaborating around this or elsewhere. And as you're conceiving of what you're going to create, partner up, bring all perspectives into the room, and then build collaboratively. And finally, please let us know what you're doing. We'd love to hear about it. So now I'm going to turn it over to Drew Zachary from the Domestic Policy Council and another member of the Opportunity Project team. She's going to talk about how this can play out in partnership with place-based initiatives.
Thanks, Aiden. Hi, everyone. This is Drew Zachary with the White House Domestic Policy Council, also formerly of HUD and HHS, so hopefully there are some of you on the line today. As Aiden mentioned, the Opportunity Project is meant to provide a platform to create partnerships between civic technologists, advocates, experts, community leaders, community members, to work together to co-create tools that are community-driven and that respond to real local needs. And we're really excited about moving forward, seeing this work really take off and develop within communities, and for those of you in the field, hopefully within the communities that you're working in on a daily basis. Because, you know, like DJ pointed out, it's really important that this project serve everyone. And one of the ways that we have done that so far is by facilitating and working with technologists who've created digital tools that hopefully ultimately can be used everywhere. And when you go to opportunity.census.gov, you'll see that there were user scenarios on the site that present the challenges that people are facing and help the technologists to design in the context of real needs. But another equally important strategy is for communities to work together to define the needs that people are facing locally in their neighborhoods, whether that's in a place-based community like a Promise Zone or a Promise neighborhood, for people to really work together and say, what challenges are the residents of this community facing, and how can we build new things using the Opportunity Project data that really respond directly to our needs. And one of the ways that we've kickstarted that process is by reaching out to the Promise Zones, and hopefully everyone has heard of Promise Zones, but in case anyone's not familiar, these are high-poverty communities across the country who have pulled together really great partnerships and identified Their locally driven goals like increasing economic activity, increasing affordable housing, promoting health, and a number of other goals. And there are now 13 promise zones across the country, and 7 will be announced this year. And we reached out to each of those promise zones for a couple of reasons before we launched the Opportunity Project. The first is that promise zones, like communities across the country, are already really actively engaged in this work of working collaboratively with residents, with partners, with advocates, with subject matter experts in their neighborhoods to develop strategies that will advance them towards their goals. And so we wanted them to have the Opportunity Project as yet another tool in their tool belt that they can use in their work. And the second reason is that some of the data in our inventory, which you'll see when you visit the website, is actually included in the Promise Zone outcome indicators that we have all collectively defined together. And so many of the Promise Zones came to the March 7th launch, including Indy East Promise Zone in Indianapolis. And to tell you a little bit more about the work that they're engaged in Indy East Promise Zone, the messages that they took away from the event, and how they're going to carry this work forward, I'm really excited to turn it over to John Berg, who's the new Indy East Promise Zone Director, to tell you what they took away from this event and how you can do the same in your community.
Very good. Thank you very much, Drew, and it's certainly an honor to be talking with everyone today. Would like to. The first day I was on the job was actually the same day as the Opportunity Project, so it was definitely a learning experience. I have the distinct honor of being the director of the Indy East Promise Zone. It's what we call a 10-year overnight success, and the Promise Zone designation is going to offer us a great opportunity to take advantage of several areas, including this data element, and move forward with a lot of our initiatives as they relate to quality of life. When talking with about the Opportunity Project that was launched, we had several individuals from our organization join us there. A few staff from our neighborhood center, neighbors involved with our board and active committees, and some city representatives who help us put together the application as it relates to how we're going to measure our outcomes. I would say that our biggest learning or takeaway from that event and getting to know everyone was really excited to see the public and private partnership in conjunction with these interactive mapping tools that makes or helps lessen the barrier to entry as it relates to big data. I think that one of the big pieces of feedback that our residents and committee members came back with was, it's great to see these opportunities in terms of how that data is collected, how these private partnerships bring it in to more of like what we would call WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get format, and making it more easy to understand. So learning about the Opportunity Project in areas of data that already exists for Indianapolis, which includes service cases, code enforcement, crime, which I think Matt will be talking about later, and building permits. It definitely helps us from a measurement perspective look at what investments are being made in the Promise Zone throughout this designation. Our Learn Indy East Committee initiative was specifically interested in the application or program called Great Schools. This is a piece that releases opportunity badges that identifies high-performing schools, given the cost of living in the neighborhood, and shows how schools provide access to opportunity broken down by race and ethnicity to help parents make the best decisions possible for their children. This specifically relates to this area and helps our current and future residents know their options, as we have private, public, and charter schools all within our boundaries. We had a chance to meet with the Code for America Brigade at this event, and it was great to talk about some of our next steps. And the organization that we have locally is called Open Indy Brigade. We met with them following the meeting and had our partners meet up to discuss next steps as it relates to potentially mapping out an interactive map, taking some more of our city data and layering it over to find some specific affinities there. How I would envision the Opportunity Project with activities or community engagement in the Promise Zone. Open data in many ways has and will allow our city and neighborhood to address opportunities and challenges as it relates to our 5 focus areas, which are live, buy, safe, learn, and work. It will be used to guide our work and measure this over the length of our Promise Zone designation and beyond. So it's playing a key role in all of this. Following our meeting with Open Indy Brigade and the Code for America folks, we're currently working with the city to, like I said, open up additional data sources. With some pre-work, the systems kind of have to talk to each other first, but I think we've had some good conversations and discussions as it relates to future projects, doing a hackathon event with city data, and moving forward with possibly some other initiatives that involve our local schools and coding. So that's kind of how we're using it currently, and it's just been a great resource, and we're still kind of sorting through all of the presentations, but we're grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, John. Thanks for giving us a really concrete sense of how open data and partnerships with civic technology groups are really impacting your work in the Indy's Promise Zone. And I'm sure folks will have some questions with regard to some of the work that you're doing locally, and we'll be sure to open this up for questions at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Denise Ross to give us an overview of the second initiative that we would like to highlight on today's call, and that's the Police Data Initiative.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. My name is Denise Ross, and I am with the Community Solutions team in OMB and am co-founder of the White House Police Data Initiative. I come most recently out of local government, working in New Orleans on their open data initiative, and in the nonprofit sector working with data for a decade before that. And I loved what the Indy speaker just talked about what can happen when you bring tech to the table to solve real-world problems. And the White House Police Data Initiative is a concrete example of that. For background, and Elizabeth, if you could move to the background slide, last December of 2014, with the large narrative going on nationally around policing and communities and building trust, the President convened a task force on 21st century policing. And with that backdrop, we started to look at what role could open data and technology play in helping build trust in communities between police and the public. And the next slide shows when the task force report was released, it's not a surprise that of those 59 recommendations, that 14 were related to technology, data, or transparency. And so with this in mind, next slide, in April of 2015, we convened a little over a dozen agencies from around the country. And the important play here was that we not only brought in police chiefs, but we also brought in their tech counterparts in local government. So the chief information officers, chief technology officers, or the data managers within city government. And collectively, we defined sort of what would open data in policing look like if the goal is to build community trust. And we identified data sets about policing that these jurisdictions would work on releasing, and then bring those data sets to the community to start a more constructive conversation. On the next slide, you'll see in May, the President formally announced the launch of the Police Data Initiative. And the next slide shows that we now have 34 participating jurisdictions across the country. And it's a nice range of jurisdictions, and each agency has agreed to open at least 3 data sets about the activity of policing, about police operations, not necessarily crime. On the next slide, you'll see the types of data sets that have been released. We have more than 60 data sets that have been released in the last year by our jurisdictions. And this is totally locally driven, and we've been super focused on this goal of building community trust. So whatever data sets are available in the police department systems and that the public has been asking for that will improve trust, that's what the localities are opening. And on the next slide, you'll see what the commitment is. It's pretty straightforward. And the reason I bring this to this group is because I think this approach could be replicated and if you wanted to go to scale with any specific type of data sets that might inform specific work that you're doing if you're trying to reach a large number of cities across the country. And just to summarize, the commitment for participation in this initiative is that each agency agrees to releasing at least 3 data sets. They identify a point of contact to participate in every 2-week stand-up phone calls where they report on progress toward opening the data and barriers that they're facing. We take the common barriers that our jurisdictions are presented with, and we work with private sector partners like Code for America, some of the vendors such as Esri and Socrata, experts working in the policing space such as the Police Foundation and International Associations of Chiefs of Police, and we help address those common challenges across the jurisdictions so we can go to scale on this. And then on the next slide, and then I should mention the most important thing is, of course, citywide buy-in. So we do ask that before a city commits that they have buy-in from the police chief, the mayor or city manager, and city's IT leadership. One of the biggest outcomes to come from this initiative so far is sometimes just bringing together the tech and data folks with the police departments to help really supercharge what the police department can do with data to build community trust. And on the next slide, I just got a couple of pictures of people in communities sitting down and looking at police data. We view this as sort of like a modern campfire. You've got members of the public, city IT staff, police chiefs, uniformed officers, community advocates, sitting around the data and talking about it. Data has can be an amazing neutral convener to address big challenges that communities are facing. And then the final slide just is a couple of links. One is to see the variety of data sets that have been published to date at publicsafetydataportal.org. Again, this is where our private sector partners have been really helpful. The Police Foundation compiled all of the data released so far. And then they also help us with onboarding new agencies who might be interested. So if you happen to be working in a local jurisdiction that you think might be a good fit for this work, please ask them to email us at pdi@policefoundation.org. And I do want to set up that Indianapolis has been one of our favorite partners to contribute so far. They have, because of their strong partnership with the Code for America Brigade and Code for America Fellows, they've been able to really serve as a model for other jurisdictions. And the technology that's been developed for Indy is helping to lighten the load for other cities who want to follow suit. Thanks.
Great. And so we actually have someone from the Open Indy Brigade who's going to tell us a little bit about how this work with the Police Data Initiative has been working at the local level in Indianapolis. So Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Again, my name is Matt Kirby. I'm with the Open Indy Brigade. And for those of you that may be less familiar with Code for America, there's probably a brigade in your town that is an affiliate, local affiliate of Code for America that can help serve as sort of both the bridge between public sector agencies, community organizations, and your tech community. As you all know, these different entities don't hang out in the same places and oftentimes don't speak the same language. And so your local brigade affiliate can serve as the bridge between those different groups. We're also the vehicle to help these sorts of projects come together and sort of define what a challenge might be, what data sets should be involved, and oftentimes can put on the event, the hack, and the programming around that to address the challenge, to look at the data, and to really utilize the tech community that's in your own backyard to solve problems. The Open Indy Brigade was formed just this past year. We have just over 300 members, and we're a very diverse group in terms of our skill sets. A brigade is typically made up of your web developers, data scientists, content experts, community organizations, public sector, agency staff, elected officials. You name the skill set that's out there, and they're showing up at our events. And that's really a unique characteristic of brigades in general. Most of the time, when you're at a community event or a technology event, it's a very specific type of attendee. Our brigades are typically made up of a very wide set of skills and set of interests, and I think that's really the value that we bring to this conversation. We're completely volunteer led, and our events are usually a mix of content workshops where we have someone from the city or someone from the community that comes in and gives our audience sort of a broad overview of a specific subject matter, whether that be transit or healthcare or public safety. In the case of our work with the Indianapolis Police Department and the Department of Public Safety, we have someone come in and talk about those sorts of things and give our audience sort of the context for the challenges that we're discussing. We also do hack events, hack nights, where folks are head down in their laptops and they're looking at data and taking a deeper dive into the data. And then we also do what we call show and tell or pitch nights, where folks are actually able to get up and talk about what they were able to accomplish, what the solution that they were able to put together looks like. And what that does is it really gives the community as a whole several different creative solutions to one particular problem. And that's really where we see a lot of our value is coming from people looking at other creative ideas and getting their own ideas, and it's just a very collaborative, innovative environment. We utilize Slack to allow our members to communicate in between meetups, and our project teams typically meet on a weekly basis in between our big meetups. If we could go to the next slide, as you can see, our events have run the gamut on particular subject matters. As Denise talked about, we helped with the public safety and the police data rollout this past November. We also launched a civic user experience project this past November, where it doesn't typically have anything to do with data, but there again, as DJ talked about, we're interested in how general members of the public are interfacing with the data, interfacing with technology, and that's very important to everything that we do. Last month, we did a government transparency hack where we were working with budget data and legislative data at the State House. And then coming up, we have sort of an interesting Internet of Things hack that's coming up in April, where we'll also be working with drug data, criminal activity data, as well as treatment options. And then, for those of you who may be totally new to civic technology, I certainly encourage you to reach out to your brigade and get involved with the National Day of Civic Hacking. Ours is called Indy Civic Hack Day. That's coming up on June 4th this year. And our hack will be focused on transit data. So as you can see, we've covered a lot of subject matter. But for more information on National Day of Civic Hacking and getting involved with your local brigade, I'd encourage you to go to codeforamerica.org. And if you have any questions for us on how to reach out to your local brigade, our website is openndbrigade.com. That's all.
Thank you, Matt. We have blown through a lot of really stimulating content. We hope it has sparked some questions, ideas, or comments for folks on the line. So we're going to open this up in case anyone does have questions for our speakers today. To ask a question, we're going to request that you use the dial-in option that was provided in the webinar invitation. So there's a dial-in number. You will be unmuted, and we ask that for those that do not have a question that you please mute your line if you are dialed in and haven't done so already. But we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. And I'd also like to just mention, you'll see here on the slides that we have the contact information listed if you're interested in inquiring more about the Delivering Outcomes for Communities training this May and June that we mentioned at the beginning, as well as information about a community of practice and ongoing calls, such as the one that we've had today. So with that, I'm going to open it up and see if anyone has any questions.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on the federal partners. You talked about the Department of Transportation and others. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I might turn it over and ask the Opportunity Project folks to talk a little bit about some of the interagency partnerships you all are looking toward.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear the question. If you could repeat that, that would be great.
Sure. The question is related to other agencies that are getting involved and have essentially been involved as partners on some of this work. I think Department of Transportation was one specific agency that was mentioned, but could you all give a sense of the different federal agencies that have been involved in this work in different ways?
I will take a stab at that and then invite others from our team to join in. We have had really wonderful partnership, really from the census is really leading this work, and HUD has been a wonderful partner as well in providing data, helping us to curate the data sets, acting as data stewards for the developers who are working with the data, and Presidential Innovation Fellows through the census, who were really the technical leads on the project. We have data sets, which you'll see in the federal list on opportunity.census.gov from a whole bunch of federal agencies in addition to Census and HUD, including HHS, USDA, EPA. We're working pretty closely now to get USDA engaged, as well as the Department of Education, in terms of thinking about what data sets we can pull in, how people can make the best use of their open data, some of which is already included on the site, as well as how to facilitate development of tools that really respond to the needs of their constituencies. So for example, with USDA, we're thinking about how we can make this project better designed to serve rural America and Indian country, as it's pretty strongly focused on cities just based on the data and the partners who we have involved now. But it's definitely very important to us to think through how we can pull in other agencies and make sure that this work is really embedded in federal government to serve as a strong platform, and would welcome people from other agencies to reach out and help us think through how it makes sense for your agency to be involved.
Yeah, so this is Luke, if I could just quickly add on. Hey, everybody, this is Luke Tate from Domestic Policy Council. I think that last bit that Drew mentioned is critically important. At the top of this call, DJ talked about some tremendous learning that we've been able to accomplish as a result of the work that Raj Chetty and his team did. But that data that Raj was using isn't open data, right? Many of your agencies have data that could be tremendously valuable to this work that isn't currently open, either because it needs to be de-identified or aggregated in some way for PII concerns. And we're never going to have a central function here of being able to get that open. Being able to identify those data sets and take all of the regimented steps needed inside your agency to make them available for an effort like the Opportunity Project is only ever going to start and succeed with you. So we invite you to look for opportunities like that, because as DJ pointed out, there is a tremendous amount that we could learn from that data that is not currently open and not currently linked up with these other sources.
Thanks, Luke. That was really.
Any other questions or comments for speakers?
Follow up to that one. One is how do you find out if other people in your agencies have already been engaged in this project?
I want to say one more thing in response to that previous question. The things that we're doing, doing some additional engagements around specific users, and so that could be another place where we would love to engage with agencies that work on those specific subjects. So one being formerly incarcerated citizens, another being LGBT youth who are experiencing homelessness, domestic violence prevention, working with unemployed and underemployed Americans looking for jobs, and rural communities, just to name a few. And so if anything that we just mentioned aligns with an agency where you work or just interest of yours, then we would love to talk about ways to potentially partner.
And going back to the last question that was just asked, how might you find out whether there are others in your agency that are involved in this work? I'll just flag a couple of things that we're hoping to do moving forward, and then we'll open it back up to the group. The training that I mentioned at the beginning of the call on delivering outcomes in communities will include a couple of working sessions specifically on these topics, and so we're hoping to help facilitate some connections between both within agencies and across agencies among folks that are looking to use data and evidence to really guide your work in communities. We also have a community of practice that we have launched specifically on the topic of resources and expertise that can help build strong federal-local collaborations. So I just flipped to the next slide here, the last slide in the deck, where we have a site that we are about to launch for this community of practice. Again, we're hoping to facilitate some of those connections there. Do any other speakers, any other folks have ideas on making connections within an agency? So this seems like the right starting point, is this actual community of practice that we're pulling together on this call here today. So what I can mention is that you'll see here on the communitysolutions.sites.usa.gov, we are launching a brand new website where we are hoping to curate resources and information such as the PowerPoint presentation from today, and then facilitate some ongoing conference calls and even in-person events so you can make these connections. So we are at time for today, so I'd like to thank everyone so much for your participation in the call today. And if you haven't already done so, we would invite you to join our Community Solutions community of practice to learn about calls like this and other events in the future. So we've included some contact information here on the website where you can visit and immediately join our email listserv to get started. And then also we have the link to the training that was mentioned earlier. We hope that a lot of you, if you aren't already planning to attend, might give it some consideration. It should be a pretty phenomenal opportunity to tap into some pretty cutting-edge resources and ideas like those that were featured on the call today and build relationships with others across agencies. So again, thank you for this call, for joining, and we look forward to being in touch. We've had several emails come in from folks asking if this presentation will be available in the aftermath of today's webinar. We will make sure to post that on our Community Solutions site as soon as it is up. In the meantime, we will also be happy to circulate it to those who had RSVP'd for the call today. So thank you again, and thanks to all of our speakers. We really appreciate your time and expertise. Have a great day.